My name is Alyssa Carter. I'm 28 years old.
And the strange thing about being humiliated by someone you love is that it doesn't feel like humiliation at first. At first, it feels like confusion.
Like you missed something. Like there's a version of reality everyone else understands, except you.
I've always been practical with money. Not cheap, not obsessive, just aware. I work as a regional sales manager for a medical equipment company. It's not glamorous, but it pays well, around 95,000 base, plus commission if I hit my numbers. I've never had debt. I don't spend on things I don't need, and when I do spend, it means something. That matters for what comes next. Daniel and I had been together for 2 years. We met at a barbecue, mutual friends, cheap beer, one of those late summer evenings where everything feels easier than it should. He was charming, funny in that effortless way, the kind of man who knew how to make a room orbit around him without trying too hard. 14 months in, we moved in together. At the time, it felt like progress. Now, I think it was just proximity speeding up the inevitable. Daniel worked in marketing. Mid-size company, decent salary, around 52,000. But his lifestyle, it didn't quite match. Designer sneakers, constant online orders, expensive dinners like they were routine, not occasional. I noticed. Of course I noticed. But he paid his half of the rent. Utilities were always on time. So I told myself it wasn't my place to question it. That's what you do when you want something to work. You ignore the small inconsistencies until they become the whole picture. Around October, he started talking about Christmas. Not casually. Not subtly. Specifically. He would sit next to me on the couch, scrolling through his phone, then angle the screen just enough so I could see it. A necklace. Tiffany and Company. White gold. Small diamonds. Clean minimal design. Price. $2,950. This would look perfect for New Year's, he said once, almost absent-mindedly. I've never wanted anything more. He said things like that more than once. Not directly asking, but not exactly subtle either. I'm not a mind reader, but I can take a hint when it's handed to me like a billboard. So I bought it. Not impulsively. I planned for it. Cut back on unnecessary spending for 2 months. Move things around financially. And when the time came, I didn't order it online. I went to the store, in person. I remember the way the sales associate smiled when she brought it out. That iconic blue box. Perfect, clean, expensive in a way that felt deliberate. I had it wrapped, carried it home like it mattered, because to me it did. Christmas morning was quiet. Just the two of us. His parents were coming later for brunch, so we had a small window. Just us, exchanging gifts before everything became noise and conversation. I handed him the box, and I swear his face lit up before he even opened it. Recognition. Excitement. For a second, I felt it too. That small, stupid happiness of getting it right. Then he opened it, and everything shifted. It was subtle. So subtle I almost convinced myself I imagined it. His smile stayed, but something underneath it didn't. Like disappointment trying to wear the mask of gratitude. Oh, he said. Just that. Oh. The pendant, I added gently. The one you showed me. Yeah, he said quickly. No, I know. It's beautiful. He put it on, took a selfie, adjusted the angle, then set the box down. Thank you, babe. That was it. No hug, no kiss, no moment. Just, thank you, babe, like I'd handed him something forgettable. I told myself he was tired, that maybe he'd warm up later. People react differently. Not everything has to be cinematic. I went to the kitchen, started prepping for brunch. Bacon, eggs, coffee, something normal to anchor the morning. About 20 minutes later, I walked back into the living room. He was on the couch, phone in hand, laughing, not smiling, laughing at something on his screen. I didn't think much of it. Not yet. His parents arrived around 11. His mom, polished, observant, always measuring things that didn't need measuring. His dad, quieter, easier. The kind of man who seemed permanently caught between speaking and deciding not to. Brunch went fine. Normal conversation. Surface-level warmth. Nothing that hinted at what had already happened, or what was about to. They left around 2. The apartment felt quieter after, like something had shifted but hadn't fully settled yet. Around 4, my phone buzzed. A message from one of my coworkers. Hey, you might want to see this. A link. TikTok. I didn't even follow Daniel on TikTok, but I knew his handle. I opened the video, posted at 10:47 a.m. While I was in the kitchen, making breakfast for his family. It was him, opening the blue box. Same moment, same angle, but this time, with text over it. When your girlfriend's gift game is weak, The audio was some trending sound about being underwhelmed. The video cut from his forced smile to him looking directly at the camera,
making an exaggerated, disappointed face.
My chest didn't tighten. It didn't drop. It just paused. I watched it again. Then again. Then I looked at the comments. Girl, dump her. She couldn't even get the full set. This is why standards matter. And Daniel was replying. I know, right?
Men really don't listen.
Laughing emojis. Crying emojis. Performing disappointment for strangers. 2 years. Almost $3,000. And I was content. I sat there for 10 minutes. Not crying. Not angry. Just understanding something I hadn't wanted to see before.
When I walked back into the living room, he looked up at me.
Still smiling. Still unaware.
Hey, I said calmly, I saw your TikTok. The color drained from his face.
Which one? I held his gaze. The one where my gift game is weak. A pause. Then,
Babe, it was just a joke. You know how TikTok is.
I nodded. Slowly.
I noted that.
And then I turned,
Walked into the bedroom,
opened my laptop, and searched. Tiffany return policy. Unworn items. Receipt required. Within 30 days. Full refund. I had time. And for the first time that day,
I smiled. The strange thing about making a final decision in a relationship is that the decision usually happens long before the other person realizes anything has changed. By the time the words come out loud, the leaving has already begun. I didn't confront Daniel again that night. I didn't scream. I didn't demand an apology. I didn't stand in the kitchen holding my phone like evidence in a trial.
That would have made it emotional. And by then, something inside me had already gone cold. Not numb. Clear. There's a difference. Numbness is confusion wrapped in silence.
Clarity is when the silence starts making sense.
For the next 2 days, I acted normal. Not overly nice. Not distant enough to raise suspicion. Just normal.
I answered when he spoke to me. I helped clean up wrapping paper. I sat beside him while he scrolled through his phone like he hadn't turned me into a joke for 15,000 strangers.
And all the while, I kept thinking about that look on his face in the video. Not embarrassment. Not irony. Enjoyment.
That was the part I couldn't unsee.
He hadn't just mocked the gift.
He had enjoyed humiliating me.
That kind of thing doesn't happen by accident. It comes from somewhere deeper, somewhere ugly. By December 27th, I knew exactly what I was going to do.
The necklace had only been worn once, to a Christmas after-party with one of his friends on the 26th. When he got home that night, slightly buzzed and smelling like cologne and winter air, he tossed his keys into the bowl by the door and disappeared into the bedroom.
A few minutes later, I walked in and leaned casually against the frame.
Hey, I said, did the clasp on the necklace feel a little off to you?
He looked up. Actually, yeah, kind of.
I nodded, like I was mildly concerned and nothing more. I can take it back to Tiffany tomorrow. Just have them check it.
He didn't hesitate.
He unclasped it, set it in my hand, and said, thanks, babe. That was the moment I understood exactly how little he thought he had to worry about. He trusted my loyalty more than he respected it. And people like that never see the end coming.
The next morning, I drove to Tiffany's alone.
The store was quiet in that polished, expensive way luxury stores always are after the holiday rush. Soft lighting, mirrors everywhere, employees with perfect posture and careful voices. I stood at the counter with the blue box in front of me and my receipt folded neatly in my wallet. The associate opened it, inspected the necklace, and said, "It appears to be in excellent condition."
It was. He had barely worn it, barely valued it.
"I'd like to return it," I said. She nodded without judgment and processed the refund.
$2,950 went back onto my credit card. I watched the confirmation screen for a second longer than I needed to. Not because I was hesitating, because I wanted to remember that feeling. Not revenge, not triumph, just correction. Like setting a bone that had been broken more cleanly than I'd first realized.
Now here's the part some people would call petty.
Maybe it was. But sometimes the difference between petty and principled depends entirely on whether the other person ever thought your dignity mattered.
I've volunteered, on and off, at a local women's shelter for about 2 years. I started after my aunt left a marriage that had hollowed her out from the inside. She stayed at a shelter for a few weeks while she figured out where to go next. I remember visiting her once during that time. She kept saying thank you for things no one should have to thank people for.
A bed, a locked door, a safe night's sleep.
Since then, donating there had always meant something to me. So when I saw the refund hit my card, I knew exactly where the money was going.
Every dollar of it.
I pulled into a parking lot across town, sat in my car, and opened the shelter's website on my phone. I entered the donation amount,
$2,950. Then I filled in the donor name, Daniel Mercer, his full legal name. For the mailing address, I used his parents' house. He still had some things registered there. Old subscriptions, random mail, the kind of leftover administrative trail people never fully clean up after moving out. The shelter sent thank you cards to donors. I knew that, and I knew exactly where that card would land. Not in his hands first, in theirs. I stared at the confirmation page when it loaded. Donation successful. For a second, I thought I might feel guilty. I didn't. What I felt was something quieter. Relief. Because the money was no longer attached to humiliation. It was useful now. Real. Needed. And somehow that mattered more than anything he had ever planned to wear around his neck. When I got home, Daniel was sprawled on the couch watching videos, one leg bouncing, his phone glowing in his hand. "Everything okay with the necklace?" he asked without looking up. "Handled," I said. He smiled. "Knew you'd take care of it." I stood there for half a second too long. Then I walked away before he could notice. That afternoon, I started moving things. Not big things. Not anything obvious. Just the pieces of my life I would hate to lose in a chaotic ending. My passport. Important documents. The ring my grandmother left me. A recipe box with handwritten cards and fading ink. My external hard drives. A watch my father gave me when I got promoted. I loaded them into the trunk of my car, then drove them to my friend Marissa's apartment garage. She didn't ask too many questions. That's one of the reasons she's been in my life so long. She just opened the garage door, looked at the plastic bins in my back seat, then looked at my face. "What did he do?" she asked. I gave a short laugh that didn't sound like one. He turned me into content. Her expression changed immediately. Not confused. Sharp. "Do you want me to come over?" "Not yet." "You sure?" I nodded. I'm still in the part where I'm calm. She leaned against the wall, crossed her arms, and said, "That's usually the dangerous part." I smiled then, a real one, brief and tired. "Yeah," I said, "I know." Meanwhile, Daniel had no idea. The original TikTok was still up. Actually, it was doing better. 84,000 views by then. I know because I kept checking. Not obsessively. Deliberately. I wanted to see how far he was willing to go with it. The answer, apparently, was farther than I'd imagined. He started making follow-up videos. Little clips about relationship expectations. Gift standards. Love language nonsense delivered with that same polished, playful tone people use when they want to sound harmless while being cruel. In one of them, he held up the Tiffany box and said, "Material gifts aren't everything, but effort matters." The box was empty, of course. I had the necklace back by then, but the performance continued. And what stunned me most wasn't the dishonesty. It was how natural it seemed to him. Like this version of events. Him as the disappointed one, him as the one who deserved more, came more easily than the truth ever had. I started screenshotting everything. The original video, his replies in the comments, the follow-ups. Not because I was planning some grand takedown. I wasn't. I just knew myself well enough to understand what would happen later. At some point, guilt would try to soften what he'd done. Memory would get sentimental. I would start remembering the good weekends, the shared groceries, the inside jokes, the ordinary comfort of 2 years. And when that happened, I wanted proof. Proof that I hadn't imagined the disrespect. Proof that the fracture was real. Proof that this wasn't me overreacting to just a joke. People say that phrase like it's a bandage, but usually it's just bleach poured over a wound someone else created. On December 29th, he asked for the necklace back. He was in the bedroom mirror, trying on shirts for New Year's Eve plans, turning slightly left and right like the world might reward him for symmetry. "Hey," he called, "did you ever pick up the necklace?" I looked up from the edge of the bed where I was folding laundry. "The clasp thing? Yeah, I want to wear it on New Year's." There it was. That easy entitlement again. No hesitation. No awareness. Just the assumption that what he wanted would still be waiting for him exactly where he left it. I folded one of his sweaters, smoothed it flat. Then I said, "I returned it." The room changed. Not physically, but the air did. The way it does right before glass breaks. He turned around slowly. "You what?" "I returned it." His face emptied first, then hardened. "Why?" I met his eyes. "Because your gift game comment made it pretty clear you didn't want it." His mouth fell open for a second, then he laughed. Short, disbelieving, ugly. "Alyssa, are you serious right now?" "Yes." "It was a joke, for content." I gave a small nod. "I know, you explained that. You can't just take back a Christmas gift because you're in your feelings." I almost smiled at that. In my feelings. As if public humiliation was some tiny feminine overreaction and not a betrayal with an audience. "I didn't take back a gift you valued," I said. "I returned something you mocked." His jaw tightened. "Where's the money?" And there it was. Not sadness. Not apology. Not even indignation, really. Just the money. I looked at him for a long moment before answering. I donated it. To what? A women's shelter. He blinked. I could actually see the sentence trying and failing to arrange itself into something he could control. What? I donated the full amount, in your name. The silence after that lasted maybe 4 seconds. But it felt longer. Long enough for him to realize I wasn't joking. Long enough for me to see his humiliation arrive in stages. Confusion first. Then disbelief. Then rage. In my name? Yes. Are you out of your mind? No, I said quietly. I think this is the clearest I've been in a while. He stared at me like I'd become someone else. Maybe I had. You donated almost $3,000, he said. My $3,000? No, I said, it was never your money. It was my gift. A gift you publicly trashed. That was content. His voice cracked on the word, half fury, half panic. You don't ruin someone and call it content, I said. You just ruin them. He started crying then, but not in the way people cry when they're hurt. This was anger crying. The kind with heat in it. The kind that sounds more like offense than grief. You're punishing me, he said. This is insane. This is manipulative. I stood up slowly. For a second, we were face to face in the bedroom we had shared for 14 months. The same room where we'd folded each other into ordinary life. The same room where I'd once believed being chosen meant being safe. I bought you exactly what you asked for, I said. You turned it into a joke for strangers. I corrected my mistake. That's psycho. No, I said. What's psycho is mocking someone's love in real time while they're making breakfast for your parents. His entire expression changed at that. Something mean flickered there. Cornered. Everyone's going to hear about this, he snapped. Do you understand me? Everyone. I held his gaze. Go ahead, I said. Post about it. For the first time since Christmas morning. He looked uncertain. Not sorry. Just uncertain. Because somewhere beneath the anger, he was starting to understand the problem. A public story only works if you still control the version being told. And for the first time since he hit upload, he didn't. That night we ate dinner separately. He ordered takeout and slammed cabinets. I made pasta, opened and no wine, and sat at the kitchen island in silence. Every now and then, I could feel him looking at me from the other room, trying to figure out whether this was a bluff, whether I would soften, whether the woman he thought he knew was still in here somewhere, waiting to fold. But something had shifted too far for that. He had mistaken my patience for permanent access. He had mistaken my love for weakness. And now he was learning what happened when both of those assumptions expired at the same time. Before I went to bed, I checked my email. There it was, a receipt from the shelter. And beneath it, a short automated message thanking Daniel Mercer for his generous support. I read it once, then archived it. Not because I wanted to hide it, because I didn't need to stare at it anymore. It was done. The money was gone. The meaning had changed. And whatever happened next would happen without my dignity attached to a blue box. I fell asleep that night knowing 2 things. First, that he still didn't understand how much damage he'd actually done. And second, that the thank you card hadn't arrived yet. The truth about consequences is that they rarely arrive where the damage started. They show up somewhere else, somewhere louder, somewhere harder to ignore. For Daniel, it arrived in the mail, but not at our apartment, at his parents' house. December 31st, New Year's Eve, 9:47 in the morning. I remember the time because I was halfway through my first cup of coffee when my phone rang. His mom. I stared at the screen for a second before answering. Hello? No greeting. No hesitation. Just ice. What is this? I leaned back slightly in my chair. What is what? This card, she snapped, from a women's shelter, thanking my son for a generous donation. A pause. He didn't donate anything? Her tone sharpened. So either this is fraud or you did something. I could have simplified it, could have softened the edges, could have made it sound smaller than it was. But something about her tone made me choose otherwise. So I told her everything. The TikTok, the necklace, the return, the donation, all of it. I didn't rush. I didn't dramatize. I just told the truth. When I finished, there was silence on the other end, long enough that I thought she might have hung up. Then, so you're telling me, she said slowly, that my son publicly humiliated you online after you bought him a $3,000 gift. A breath. And your response was to donate the money to charity in his name. Yes. Another pause. Longer this time. I need to call you back. Click. I stared at my phone for a moment after the call ended. Not anxious. Not nervous. Just waiting. Because I knew what kind of person she was. She wasn't cruel, but she was deeply invested in appearances, in how things looked, in what people said. And this wasn't just a private conflict anymore. This was public, documented, searchable. Apparently, what happened next at their house was explosive. I didn't see it, but I heard about it from Daniel himself. About an hour later, my phone rang again. His name, I answered. Alyssa, what the hell did you do? He wasn't just angry. He sounded rattled. My mom is losing her mind, he continued. She's acting like I committed a crime. I took a sip of my coffee before responding. You publicly mocked a $3,000 gift for internet attention, I said evenly. Your mother cares about appearances. This outcome was predictable. You did this on purpose, he snapped. You wanted to embarrass me. I exhaled slowly. I wanted to do something meaningful with money that was being wasted, I said. The embarrassment is just context. He went quiet for half a second. Then, she's talking about her friends seeing this, he said, voice rising. The shelter posts donor names online for contributions over 500. My dad's golf buddies could see it. Her book club. I closed my eyes briefly. Not out of guilt. Out of recognition. This was the real issue. Not what he had done. Not what I had done. But how it looked. I'm not responsible for that, I said. You set this up. I made a donation. In my name. You used my name to humiliate me first, I said quietly. That landed. Harder than anything else I'd said. He didn't respond right away. And in that silence, I knew he finally understood something. Not fully, not deeply, but enough to feel it. The loss of control. He hung up without another word. About 2 hours later, the apartment door slammed open. Daniel walked in like a storm that had finally found somewhere to land. His face was flushed, eyes sharp, jaw tight enough to crack something if he pushed it any further. She went insane, he said immediately. My mom, absolutely insane. I didn't look up from where I was sitting. What did you expect? That you wouldn't do something like this. That made me glance at him. Like what? Like drag my family into it. I tilted my head slightly. You dragged strangers into our relationship first. That was different. How? It was a joke. There it was again. That word. That shield. I held his gaze. Then this is a response, I said.
Hush.
He paced for a while after that, back and forth across the living room, running his hands through his hair, muttering things under his breath. At one point, he knocked over a chair and didn't bother to pick it up. I let him move. Let him burn through whatever version of anger he needed to feel, because none of it changed anything.
Man.
That night, I thought he might leave, pack a bag, go to his parents, make a dramatic exit, but he didn't. Instead, he stayed. And over the next 2 days, he tried something else. It started small, subtle, petty in ways that were almost deliberate. He unplugged my laptop while I was working. Accidentally, he forgot to tell me his parents were stopping by one afternoon, so I opened the door in sweatpants and silence to find them standing there, assessing everything. He made comments. Constant ones. Must be nice to have money to throw away. Some people just love playing savior. Little things. Sharp enough to cut. Soft enough to deny. But none of that was the real problem. The real problem came on New Year's Day. I had gone out for brunch with Marissa and a few friends. Left the apartment quiet, neutral, unoccupied by tension for a few hours. When I came back, something felt wrong before I even opened the door. It wasn't loud. It wasn't obvious. Just off. Inside, the living room looked incomplete. Not empty, but disturbed. Then I saw him. Daniel was by the door, loading things into his car. My things. My PS5, 2 of my coats, a speaker I'd bought last year, a box from my desk, cables, notebooks, small things that mattered more than they looked like they should. I stood there for a second, watching, letting the scene settle into reality. Then I said quietly, "What are you doing?" He didn't even hesitate, taking what I'm owed. Something inside me went still, not shocked, not hurt, just done. You're stealing my things, I said. No, he snapped. You stole $3,000 from me. This is compensation. I let out a slow breath. I didn't steal anything, I said. I returned a gift you rejected and donated the money. You had no right. I had every right. You owe me, he shouted. 2 years of my life. You owe me something. That almost made me laugh. Almost. Instead, I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. Started recording. He froze. Not completely, but enough. Enough for the moment to shift. Put the stuff back, I said calmly, or I call the police. His eyes flicked to the phone, then back to my face. You wouldn't. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't step closer. Didn't need to. Try me. There's a moment When someone realizes the version of you they've been dealing with no longer exists. I watched it happen in real time. His shoulders dropped slightly. His grip on the box loosened. And slowly, one by one, he started unloading the car. But not without words. Of course not.
That's him.
You're going to regret this, he muttered. Everyone's going to know what kind of person you are. I leaned against the wall, arms crossed. The kind who donates to women's shelters, I said. Yeah, devastating reputation. He slammed the trunk shut. Hard. Too hard. Then walked past me without another word. By that night, he was gone. No apology. No closure. Just a slammed door so violent it knocked a picture frame off the wall. I picked it up, straightened it, tapped the nail back into place. Then I reheated leftovers, sat on the couch, and watched the New Year's countdown replay like nothing in the world had changed. But everything had. And for the first time in days, the apartment felt quiet in a way that didn't hurt. The aftermath of a breakup like that isn't silence. It's noise. Just not always where you expect it. I thought once Daniel left, that would be it. A clean break. Maybe a few awkward run-ins with mutual friends. Some time. Some distance. Closure, eventually. I was wrong. Because Daniel didn't leave quietly. He just changed the stage. The first move came through our friends. We had a circle, about 6 couples we saw regularly. Dinners, birthdays, weekend hangouts. The kind of social life that feels stable, until it suddenly isn't. He reached out to them, one by one, told them his version. I was controlling, financially manipulative, vindictive, cruel. The kind of woman who would punish her boyfriend over a joke. Here's what he didn't account for. They had already seen the TikTok. Not all of them, but enough. Enough that when his story landed, it didn't land clean. A few of them texted me, not dramatically. Just, hey, are you okay? I saw something. Is everything all right? One of them, Jason, was more direct. Look, I don't know what he told you, but we saw the video. That wasn't a great look. That mattered more than I expected. Not because I needed validation, but because it reminded me of something important. The truth doesn't always stay buried just because someone tells it louder. In the end, he lost 4 of the 6 couples. The only ones who sided with him were his old college roommate and the roommate's wife, neither of whom had ever liked me much anyway. Fair trade. Next came his family. His mom, who had gone nuclear on him at first, did something I should have predicted. She adjusted the narrative. When she realized the breakup wasn't temporary, that I wasn't coming back, that there would be no easy reconciliation to smooth over the embarrassment, she pivoted.
That is you.
Suddenly, I was the villain. You couldn't take a joke. You ruined Christmas. You humiliated our family. She called me twice. I didn't answer. Then she texted. Long messages. Paragraphs about respect, maturity, and making things right. Finally, the request came. You should return the money.
Listen.
I stared at that message for a long time. Not because I was considering it, because I wanted to understand it. Return the money. Not to the shelter. Not to undo the donation. To him. As if the entire situation could be reset if I just handed him back the value he believed he was owed. I typed my response slowly, carefully. I bought a gift. It was rejected publicly. I returned it and donated the proceeds. Nothing was stolen. If you'd like to continue this conversation, we can do so through attorneys. She didn't reply. His dad, on the other hand, sent one message. Sorry about all this. For what it's worth, I thought the necklace was nice. I read that twice, then put my phone down. Sometimes, that's all accountability looks like. Small, quiet, almost invisible, but real. I thought that would be the end of it. It wasn't. 2 weeks later, I got tagged in a TikTok. His account. Public again. I opened it. He didn't use my name. Didn't need to. Story time about my toxic ex who took back a Christmas gift to punish me for a joke. He told it well. I'll give him that. Confident voice. Controlled pacing. Just enough vulnerability to make it believable. He framed himself as the victim. Of course he did. Left out the original video. Left out the comments. Left out the part where he laughed while I was in the kitchen cooking for his family. For a moment, watching it, I felt something twist in my chest. Not doubt. Not regret. Just the weight of being misunderstood on purpose. The video got traction. 200,000 views in a few days. Comments flooded in. At first, they sided with him. Red flag behavior. She sounds toxic. You dodged a bullet. I closed the app, put my phone down, walked away. Because here's the thing, no one tells you about situations like this. You don't always get to control the first version of the story people hear. But you can control whether you chase it. I didn't respond, didn't comment, didn't defend myself. And then something shifted. It always does. People started asking questions. What was the original joke? Can we see the video? What was the gift? The gaps in his story started to show. And then someone posted it. A screen recording. The original TikTok. Him. The necklace. The caption. The exaggerated disappointment.
Nice.
The comments changed almost instantly. Wait, this is what you're mad about? She spent $3,000 and you mocked her? He returned it? Good. He donated it to a women's shelter? That's actually incredible. I watched it unfold in real time. Not with satisfaction, not with triumph. Just stillness. Because it wasn't about winning. It was about the truth finally catching up. Within hours, he deleted the video. Then the account went private. Then, gone. Just like that. Silence. A few days later, Marissa came over with takeout and a bottle of wine I didn't open. We sat on the floor of my living room, backs against the couch, containers spread out between us. You know what the craziest part is? She said, picking at her food. I looked at her. What? You didn't actually do anything wrong. I let out a quiet breath. I know. You just didn't let him get away with it. That stayed with me. Because for a long time I had ignored things, smoothed things over, explained things away, until there was nothing left to smooth. A month after the donation, I received a letter, handwritten, from the shelter. They thanked Daniel Mercer for his contribution, said the funds had helped provide emergency housing for 3 families over the holidays. 3 families. I sat at my kitchen table reading that line over and over again.
Pity.
Not because I needed validation, because it grounded everything. Turned something ugly into something that mattered. I keep that letter in my desk drawer now. On days when I catch myself remembering him, the good parts, the easy laughter, the version of us that almost worked, I take it out, read it again,
Ouch.
and remind myself, some endings aren't losses. They're corrections. My friend asked me recently if I regretted anything, if I would do it differently. I thought about it, really thought about it. I wish I had seen the signs earlier, I said finally. I wish I hadn't spent 2 years loving someone who saw me as content. A pause. But everything after that? I added quietly. No, I don't regret that at all. Because some gifts are better given to people who actually understand their value.